In this second demonstration, we're going to create a recovery services vault. And although we're focusing on the Hyper-V to Azure migration scenario through the rest of this course, I nonetheless want to at least get you started on the VMware side of the equation. So let me bring up my browser here. And as you can see, I'm in the Azure Resource Manager portal, already at the Recovery Services Vault's blade. Let's click Add to create this. Now understand that Recovery Services Vault has two main pathways. It can do VM backup, and it can also do Azure Site Recovery. And it also is important that you select the right location, because your virtual machines in Azure, in order to be associated with this vault, will need to be in that same region. So I'm going to call this Migration Vault. I'll put it in a new resource group called Migration, and I'm going to choose East US as my region, and we'll click Create. Alrighty, let's pop into our new Migration Vault. And if we scroll down to getting started, as promised, there's two pathways, one for backup, which we're not concerned with. I do want you to know that as part of our Pluralsight Microsoft partnership training, we do cover the backup scenario to a great degree of depth. So check those courses if you would. We're going to do site recovery here. And the way this works, it's really nice. Because this is potentially complex and you have different pathways, we have a wizard-based interface here. Notice that there's a pathway for on-premises machines, which is what we want, or if you have a mix of on-premises machines and Azure VMs. We're going to go the first route here to prepare the infrastructure. Notice that we have a number of steps here that we're concerned right now. I'm just going to walk a little bit way down the VMware path. The protection goal, we're asked, where are our machines located? Azure or on-premises? I'm going to select on-premises. Where do you want to replicate them? Of course, that's going to be Azure. But alternatively, you can select another physical disaster recovery site in your environment. Are your machines virtualized? You can answer that yes with Hyper-V, yes with vSphere Hypervisor, or not virtualized other. Well, I'm going to assume we're doing VMware here, and let's click OK. And it gives us a link here, a direct download to run the deployment planner. Now, I showed you in the previous demo, there's Azure Migrate, which you could also consider. I mean, you could run either for VMware. But notice that you have to specify here, yes, I have completed deployment planning, and I'm going to attest to that and click OK to continue. And in preparing the source environment for VMware, as I already said, we're going to need to create a configuration server. And here we have a direct download to download the configuration server virtual machine template. And this weighs in somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 gigabytes. It's a pretty big VM image, but this is going to be required in order for us to go any further in the process. You see step 2, once you've got your configuration server online and handshaking with this recovery vault, you can then go to step 2 where you select your vCenter server, your vSphere hosts, and then continue on. Well, so this is really where it differs from the Hyper-V to Azure scenario. Don't worry, this is a lot of information I'm throwing at you, but you're going to understand full scale how it works through Hyper-V as an example in the following 2 modules of this course, okay? Now, as it happens, we're actually on that VM. I downloaded the configuration server OVA appliance file. I've deployed it in my VMware environment. This is a Windows Server 2016 virtual machine that's got a 180-day eval license on it. And there's a shortcut on the desktop called Microsoft Azure Site Recovery Configuration Manager. And this is an interface that looks a lot like the migration server interface that we saw in the previous demonstration. The way that this works here, config server for VMware, is first we establish communication to Azure. You're going to have to check internet connection and choose the proper NIC, which I've already done. The next step, we connect to the proper recovery services vault. Next, we install third-party prerequisite software like VMware Power CLI 6.5 as we saw before. Then step through to authenticate in our vCenter environment. And then if we need to supply alternate credentials for accessing the virtual machines hosted by vCenter, we can finalize the configuration there, okay? So that's the idea, and you'll want to keep this. This guy's going to need to be online throughout the entire migration process when you're in a VMware environment. For that matter, check the exercise files for instructions on how to update the configuration server software if an update is available for that.